Hello, beautiful lovely gamers. My name is Jonal. If I told you the Tracer was meta, you would probably laugh. So let's talk about why Tracer is meta and why Tracer is being played for 2-3 teams, 4.2k teams, 4.4k teams. That kind of high elo. This is not like some gold pro strategies. These are actual strategies of how to use Tracer. Of course, before we start the video, a like on the video and a comment really does help out against YouTube's abusive algorithm. Please subscribe with bell notifications so actually get notified about future content. And of course, if you want to rank up, get better at the game, improve, doesn't matter if you're bronze or top 500, doesn't matter if you play for a team or not, hit me up on Discord server, link down below in the description, and it's 50 euros for a 2-hour session, so we can set something up. Now let's talk about this. So currently we see a lot. The standard team composition that's being played now is logically the Orisa and the Sigma. That is the forefront of what is. Then there's a bunch of different DPS combos and some different support combos, but that is what you see getting played a lot. So instead of essentially this team composition that we are playing here on offense is, instead of saying, okay, you know what, we can play Orisa Sigma versus Orisa Sigma and somehow have a duel, right? It's going to be about who can take out the most resources. It's going to be about who can get best picks, who can set up best for fights in the form of crossfire, depending on what DPS you have, to a certain extent, who can get most value out of the hero picks they have. But it's going to be a lot about those frontline fights, the shield break, the good holes that forces out certain resources so that you can push effectively, and so on. This can be a very, very, very both boring, but also a very, very weird way of playing, because if one of your players does one mistake, all of a sudden that gets a big ripple effect. So there's not as much room. There's not as much room for mistakes, or essentially there's a lot of teams that are really focused and very specifically focused on this team composition and has mastered this team composition on the level. So if you can't beat them on the bunker, or again, if you want to have something that's an ace up your sleeve, right? Not playing what is meta, does the teams that only scrim against meta teams, which is majority, that's why it's called the meta, it's what most people use, right? So if this team here only scrims against this bunker team composition, they will be really, really good at it. So if you pull out something that is also very different, it will help a lot with your win percentage. What we're playing here is Hammond, Tracer, Pharmacy, Orisa Sigma. The whole plan of this, the whole grand overall theory, right? Remember this, we need overall theories so we understand the playstyle, so each individual player understand their roles so they can execute it correctly. You can't say, I'm going to go right side, you're going to go left side, then we're going to count to 3 and then we're going to do something. Because the enemy team will be doing stuff. Everything is always different. So you need this overall playstyle, this overall way that we have a win condition on, the way that we're supposed to play this to have good effects. So everybody's on the same page about what we're trying to execute so they can use their individual skill in a positive and good way. Is the following. The Orisa and the Sigma will be pushing in to a certain extent. Their job is to keep pressure on the front line, draw aggro, draw fire, keep pressure. Do that the tanks are not allowed to turn around here. So these guys want to push up, for example, to here, in Iconwell as an example, and get ready to really go aggressive. Drop the shield, right? Wait logically for their Orisa to refresh their shield, and then they go in and drop theirs, right? So the enemy team doesn't have shield advantage. We have a Pharah that's constantly here keeping pressure. Normally, this would, for example, be a Hanzo, right? But you don't want a Hanzo because we want something that can apply a lot of pressure into the enemy team and follow up with the dive. A Hanzo is going to be separated by the Orisa, by the Sigma, by the shields, by the general pressure that the Sigma can do by just exploding orbs around here. The Pharah, on the other hand, can play far more aggressively using the tower to kind of protect the tower here to kind of protect herself in case they play something like this with 4 counters to the Pharah, right? But still be able to quickly and effectively keep pressure on the backline and follow with the dive. The dive team would do exactly what you think. They will do a normal dive setup. They will set up the Hammond in a way that he can engage the enemy team. You will set up the Tracer in a way so the Tracer can quickly engage the area that is the dive area. For here, for example, this would be the backline. So if the Hammond want to slam here, the Tracer needs to be in some form position where she can react to this, where she can react to this dive and have impact on the dive. But we want to do this in the following way. Your team the dive is like, we're ready, we can go, we can see the enemy team. We will go in with the Orisa will push in, drop her shield, go aggressive. The Pharaoh will go aggressive, and at the same time as this is happening, the slam happens. A big CC onto the main group, followed up by a Tracer focusing fire onto some people. This will force out the resources of the opponent team. Immortality field, for example, will normally get burned. A lot of time nade get burned from, for example, the Ana, since we're playing Ana here. Orisa in a lot of scenarios like this might pop Fortify as a defensive measure, and we can force out a lot of abilities and potentially get a kill. If we don't get a kill, then this is fine. This will force them to burn resources, and because we have Tracer and so on, we can quickly disengage and quickly do another. We just need to wait for the slam to get back online, and then we're ready. Imagine if you force out the Mortality Field from the opponent, the opponent's Baptiste, you might force out the nade from the Ana, and at the same time you also force out a Fortify. Your Orisa, knowing that this will happen, might not burn her Fortify, being completely okay with the fact that the healers are very busy shooting at trying to peel for themselves. Not gonna heal this one, doesn't need Fortify, I have Baptiste up my ass, it's completely fine, I just need to keep pressure. They waste Fortify, they waste Immortality Field, they waste nade. Now you come in with your own Immortality Field and your own Fortify. The front line of the enemy team no longer will be able to sustain, since you have Fortify, they don't. Your Orisa can very easily bully around the main group even without. And again, imagine how frustrating this must be. Because there's this very difficult to kill, right? The Orisa on her own can hold her ground. She doesn't need somebody to protect her in the early games. Especially with a Baptiste, they can help shoot if they try to push her shield, right? At the same time, you have a Pharah that's constantly applying pressure from different angles, that is drawing resources up to the sky to just keep her at bay. And if you don't, then she will get off angles and land insane amount of rockets. So you can also build and look for barrage. And while you're doing all this and having to try to deal with the off-angling Pharah and the Orisa and the Baptiste that's pushing and so on, you have a Hammond and a Tracer setting up in your backline, and you can't really do much against them. You need to focus on the Pharah, you need to focus on the Orisa, or else you get choked out. But at the same time, if you allow the Orisa, if you can't, this, as the Hammond is setting up with the Tracer, you know that a CC will hit, that can quickly get followed up by this Pharah, followed up by this Orisa, and a Tracer will also be joining there with a lot of damage. And these can be playing around your team for such a long time. The same strategy can be used offensively. If you, for example, are playing a map like, let's see, for example, Busan, which I do believe is in the OD map pool as well, right? If you're playing Busan and you're playing the defending side, and you're playing the Seeker system, you use it all, for example, on drums here, right? This actually happened during a scrim, right? You've used this, right? The enemy has this is the enemy team, they have a front line, they have a DPS line, which I'll just drop a Hanzo in here. Where's the Hanzo icon? Am I blind? There we go. And then they have, you know, whatever they have a back line, I'm going to drop Baptiste, right? Let's say they have these three, right? And okay, they're going to go in, you of course going to do your thing. If they go, let me see, let's find your front line. This is your front line, and this will also be your support, right? Let's find your Pharah. This is the pharmacy. Oops, that's a creep. God damn it, I'm fucking clumsy today. There we go. This is your pharmacy. This is your, you can also swap off this, and for example, this man play Hanzo instead. But let's just run with the pharmacy right now. This is your pharmacy. This is your main group with the Orisa Baptiste. And then you have a ball, and you have a Tracer. There we go. There's no need for us to off-angle. We have one guy that can off-angle to a certain extent. We have one strong main group, and we don't need to care about off-angling outside that. The enemy team has difficulty. If they go down here, right, and start playing for here, right? Because of the Pharah, they need to a certain extent stack. They need to a certain extent protect themselves, right? So they need to a certain extent line up, allowing us to go around, slam, right, engage from here, and quickly get kills, get CC, to pull out abilities, do the same thing. If the enemy team decides that, oh, I'm going to start off-angling, right? So I'm going to put my Hanzo on this side, right? Now there's somebody alone that the Tracer and the ball can take out without the Pharah needing to do it for them. Of course, the Pharah can also do it if she wants to. So off-angling becomes much more scary, right? Same if it goes here, right? We can quickly get her. And to a certain extent, the Tracer can take out off-angling DPSs on her own if the ball doesn't want to. The ball can also do it on her own. And we have a movable Pharah that can help either one. So the Pharah can also correspond with your Hammond if need be. If there's an area that needs to quickly get doved and taken out, and the Tracer is not have resources or is not in a position that she can follow up on that dive area, since she's the slow one of the Hammond, and the Tracer is the slowest one, right? If the enemy team runs straight down main and tries to take drum for you, you can also see how they quickly go. No matter what side these guys try to position themselves on, right? They are always 1, 2, 3, and 4. No matter which one these take, they're always diveable by these guys. And they say that your team just won the fight, and this enemy team is trying to, do offensive, play, actually push in and be aggressive, right? Your Orisa might take one side drums, right? Your Pharah might be up, being a little bit aggressive, doing whatever she wants, right? She's just going to be flying around. The enemy team can, one, get pressured early here, but even more so during any form of setup in here, right? You go through here, you get dive, you get slammed. You go through here, you get dive, you get slammed. You try to rotate in here is the only safe bet, and even here you can get quickly get pushed, halted, and again dived and slammed, right? You can, for example, very quickly say, okay, we know that, for example, putting your tracer over here and putting your Hammond over here, for example, allows you to now strike at most targets on the map. You can punish them mid-rotation. You can practice them wherever they set up. The only thing that these guys can do is to try to set up in here and fight their way out from here. But at that point, you kind of get this whole thing where, okay, fine, we don't need to fight you. You, in the end, need to extend all the way out here, which can open you up from crossfire from the Pharah, and where your DPSs need to stop peeking us to deal damage and zone out the Pharah so your tanks can actually move. And when they do that, we can slam and we can dive again. This is a very, very difficult team composition to apply against, and it's very meta in certain situations. For example, mecha base is one of those situations where this doesn't work, right? There's no real good setup way for the Hammond. All of these line of sights, for example, if the enemy team tried to push through this choke, right? And you're like, okay, we'll face them head on, push in, keep pressure with our main group. Again, that's the important part. Keep pressure with our main group, so our main group can follow up, the Pharah can follow up, whatever, right? If the Hammond goes around here, it's very easily shut down. If the Hammond goes around here, it's very easily shut down. There's no quick way of getting in on them. There's no kind of easy way to set up, stage with a tracer, and then go in because it's so close quarter. The same thing can be said about this. You can to a certain extent do it here, but the same thing kind of goes. The timing down here is so, to a certain extent, defendable. Of course, you can play from the high ground, slam in, tracer set up, and so on. But because it takes so much time to sometimes get up and around and up and around and up and around, you might be better on a team composition that is easier to brawl with on the comp. Right here, yes, they can set up on the drum, but there's still a very open space here where we can set up from here, we can come from these walls, right? We can come from around here, we can come from this side, right? There's a lot of different angles that you can kind of push them from if we want to with the ball and the tracer, right? That you don't always get on some of the other maps. So yes, this is to a certain extent map oriented. I like Iconwell First Point, and also Bisam. We got the team that I work with on that one. Got some good result on on these two maps. It's really devastating, and this is without talking about stuff like you have pull bomb, you have minefield, right? You have a lot of actually really powerful ultimate, and the Sigma Flux is not as good when there's only 1 or 2 people in main, right? When there's a Pharah above you with Boros ready, very difficult to get value out of Flux comparatively to what it is for us to get value out of mines and so on. So it's difficult to off angle, it's difficult to move. It's really good to just force out abilities. We can always just force out abilities and look for picks. They can't always drop in Mortality Field to shut down the dive. And again, the slam CC with the tracer follow up, the Pharah going in and the Orisa pushing with Fortify or whatever she's doing will normally grant you kills. Because the amount of damage, the amount of value you're getting compared to the enemy team who has to burn everything to defend themselves and try to be defensive, and will lose a huge amount of their HP and force everybody on the defensive, so they can't play aggressive, they can't off-angle, they have lost most of their momentum, will normally grant you a kill. It is such a suppressive team composition to play against. And again, this is also to talk about stuff that is not just this Orisa Sigma bunker, which we have seen a billion times. That is why Tracer is meta, because team composition like this makes Tracer shine so much due to the huge amount of damage that she have, the pulse bomb which are good, and the amount of squishies that she can help assassinate as long as the Hammond goes in first and draws some attention. And there's also an Orisa pushing it at the same time. There might be a hold included here. It allows the Tracer to really shine in a way where she has CC support, and she just needs to set up and track well and use abilities, it allows the tracers to play very, very aggressive. I hope you like these kind of videos. You normally don't get a lot of views, but I'm trying my very best to sometimes make them as well. Even though, again, if I get low views, the algorithm hits me after. So again, a like on the video really does help out. Same with a comment down below. If you want to see more than this, just write that you want to see more like this, because I need to know how engaged you guys are with this kind of content. Most people probably didn't make it to the end. If you made it to the end, please do tell me. I assume most people didn't make it to the end. But if you did, I will heart your comment, I promise. Outside that, again, private coaching, 50 years for a 2-hour session. Hit me up on our Discord server, link down below. Peace, take care, stay positive. I love you guys very, very much. My name has been Jonal, and as always, keep the enemy in your bosom.